Nice to meet you.
Yes. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have a quorum, Director Palmer, Director Schott, Director Bland, Director Robinson, Director Ward, and Director Gaines. Director Menley is not present. Everyone please rise and join me in pledging allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Okay, we had 2 sign up for public comment. Do we have any others that
Right here.
didn't get?
No.
Okay.
Hello. Where do I have to?
That's okay. Yeah, well, she'll get a copy of it, but
All right.
you can give it to us, right?
Thank you. Sorry, it was a quick.
No, that's quite all right.
I left my water bottle in the restroom.
That is okay. All right, Ms. Marsh.
I'll try to extend where everybody can hear me. It's kind of interesting. Sorry to turn my back on you guys back there. So I'm Terry Marsh. As most of you guys know, I live on Fort Clark. In the recent state audit, our district received a priority rating. Here is how the audit report defines this rating. Issues identified present risks or effects that, if not addressed, could critically affect the audited entity's ability to effectively administer the program or functions audited. Immediate action is required to address the noted concerns and reduce risk to the audited entity. So to obtain a broader context for the audit results, I went back online and reviewed recent audits of other GCDs that have been completed in the past 5 years. The ratings range from low, which sort of counterintuitively is actually the highest rating, I guess, meaning like low risk of serious problems, ranging low, which is the best rating, then medium, high, or priority, with priority being the poorest rating. In reviewing 11 other districts that were audited in 2021, none received the priority rating. 2 were rated high, all others either medium or low. I'm pleased to see that follow-up on compliance with audit recommendations is on the agenda tonight. I wonder what has been done to address the issue of the 6 of 7 test wells that have been in operation since 2019. Are these wells still in operation? Has the missing monthly data been submitted on 5 of 7 of these wells? The audit report states that the district allowed 4 permit holders to renew their permits and continue pumping water without paying all required permit renewal and water usage fees. In the addendum to the audit describing the methodology, it states that auditors only tested 15 regular wells, or 13% of the total population of 115 wells, to determine whether each well had an active permit and whether the district collected all required water usage fees and pumping reports. If 4 out of 15 wells were not properly paying fees, what would an examination of all 115 wells reveal? What follow-up is being done to make sure that all fees and reports are submitted for all wells on time? As the district pursues the hiring of a new hydrogeologist, will services be obtained through a contract that is reviewed by the district's attorney? The resignation of Dr. Hutchinson without completing his final report cost the district and taxpayers both time and money. The absence of a contract allowed him to resign without penalty. I hope that the board will be diligent and transparent in overseeing corrections to these problems.
Thank you for comment, Ms. Marsh. Mr. Bain.
My name's Curtis Bay, and I'm a permittee of 2804. I have a well, or 3 wells on the property, and they're about 100 feet higher than the spring. And right now I have head pressure of water. It's artesian. I don't, in my opinion, I think Trinity Edwards and Edwards are separated somehow or another. And I feel like that water's going south down to Standard Lane. Because I used to farm down there, and it's like a little river. And all these wells are just as straight as an arrow going down there. They're not within maybe a football field wide, or maybe a quorum, I don't know. But they're real close, all the good wells that actually produce a lot of water. And when you get outside of that zone, and that zone down there, I know we can pump it down. That's why I feel like there could be a dam of some sort or something holding water back and just releasing this a little bit down out of the Trinity Edwards pocket. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Bone. Ms. Hayter.
Hi, y'all. I don't get a chance to talk to you very often, so I'm here. I'm just one of the leaders in the border organization, and would like you to consider keeping the meetings where we can all gather in the evenings. I'd like you to consider that. And the other thing that we want to do, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I had it written down here. Oh, the drought plan. I'm sorry. Consider a drought plan. There's some forecasting out there that we will be in a series. We got lucky and got some of that tropical rain that is forecasted to be very severe. And so appreciate you considering that.
Thank you for your comment. Discussion, possible action, approval of minutes, June 2025 regular board meeting. What is the board's pleasure?
I don't see nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the minutes as given to us.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Director Bland and a motion to second by Director Schott. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. Discussion, possible action, approval of hydrologist contract with Freese and Nichols. Floor is open.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with Freese and Nichols.
We have a motion to approve,
I'll second it.
and we have a second. Motion from Director Schott and a second from Director Bland. All those in, any discussion,
Yes.
please?
I mean, was the contract sent out prior to being included in the board package tonight so that people have a chance to review it?
No, it's not.
I don't know, but I asked Greg if he had reviewed it, and he had, so.
That's new.
Legal counsel has reviewed it.
Is there any,
And I reviewed it, so.
I mean, I see the initial amount listed here. I'm assuming, I mean, on an as needed basis, additional charges, any estimate of what this might
We actually have,
be over time?
You mind if I?
No,
please,
please.
no, this is a question for you.
So, I'd like to start off by introducing myself. I'll start off by saying thank you for electing us. I know it wasn't an easy decision. You had 4 proposals. I know all the firms were qualified firms, including Freese and Nichols, and am honored to be selected as the firm to work with Kinney County GCD here. My name is Vince Claus. I'm a hydrogeologist licensed by the state of Texas. I've been working with and for GCDs across the state of Texas going on 12 years now. Kind of cut my teeth out in Pecos County, working for the Middle Pecos Groundwater Conservation District, done work for the Crockett County Groundwater Conservation District. Out in Pecos County, one of those things that we've looked at over the last 10 years is Comanche Springs out there. I've also had the pleasure of working for Clearwater Underground Water Conservation District, which is up in Bell County. There we have DFCs around spring flow related to Salado Springs. So in terms of karst geology, the Edwards Aquifer, Edwards Trinity aquifers, I know the area well. So I'm excited to begin working with the district out here, somewhat in my backyard, based on kind of where I've worked historically throughout my career. So I'm really excited about that opportunity. And what we've done here is just through my experience of working with GCDs, one of those things that I've learned is it's good to kind of start off with, say, a kickoff task, a get to know you type task. And that's what we've provided right now. This is $25,000. And on the second page there, we outline what my billing rate is and how those hours are anticipated to be spent over the next several months. What we've done is we've provided funding for up to 4 board meetings. So that's me coming out here and attending up to 4 board meetings. What that also allows me to do is spend time working with committee members, with board members to talk through different kind of priorities or action items, better understand what each board member feels strongly about. And then what I plan to do is take all that information and develop a priority action item list to where we outline all these competing priorities in a way that is methodical, where we're developing deliverables that build upon one another. And ultimately, what I plan to do is then develop a roadmap of what I believe is something that we can accomplish together, say over the next 6, 12, and 18 months, and then come back to the board with that. And then from there, we can build additional task items or task authorizations that are specifically focused on things such as rulemaking or DFCs, or drought management plans, or just more generalized as it relates to evaluation of the scientific data that Jim's put together over the years. And then the other thing I've built into this task here is an opportunity for me to work with the district, make sure I'm able to get all the data that Dr. Hutchison has provided to the district over the years, find time to digest some of that information, and then better understand what's happening here as it relates to that local hydrogeology as well. And so all of those hours I've accounted for them on the second page there, so you can kind of see where we are putting time and effort. Most of that effort is for attending meetings. However, it is something that can be amended with time if priorities change. If there is less of a need for me to attend meetings and more of a need for me to, say, work on a very specific permit review, we can modify and authorize or modify that through amendments to accommodate for that. But the thought here is that this is really just a kickoff task that we can build from this. Right now, as I mentioned, this is $25,000. As we add additional tasks, there will be fees associated with each of those tasks that we can clearly outline and define.
So you're saying that each additional, I mean, what would the board have to approve? That this is an initial contract. So anything down the road would have an estimate and then board approval before proceeding?
That's the way I'm understanding it.
Yes, sir.
Have you worked with Dr. Bill previously?
Yes, sir.
Have you gone back and kind of looked at what he's done over the last 2, 3, 4 years? I mean, just general.
Over the last 2 years, yes. Over the last 4 years, maybe not so much. I've went back and I've reviewed every meeting that's published on YouTube, so I understand what the history is there. I have assisted Dr. Bill or Dr. Hutchison with work here in Kinney County. I previously helped him with the irrigation analysis that he did to inform the modeling as it related to.
I guess what I'm getting at is, and nobody's going to hold you to it because it's just kind of one of the shot in the dark thing. But based on what he has done the last couple of years and what he has billed the district, I'm coming at it from a budgetary standpoint. Mm-hmm. Would y'all's fees be, in line with his, less than his, more than his? What would be your gut feel on that? It was one man as opposed to a firm.
Well, and that's where I believe there's an advantage in terms of my pricing structure. I'm able to utilize staff that bill at a much lower rate to do some of these things. Where Bill, he's very efficient.
Yeah,
Bill's Bill. He's been doing this for 20 years now across the state. But we do make up for it there in terms of being able to use some lower billing rate staff in terms of being efficient and most likely more competitive once you look at that average across hours.
Okay, so you're thinking over time, the charges from your firm would be similar,
I would assume they're very similar.
very similar to his?
It depends what I'm being asked to do.
Oh, I know, I mean,
but
yeah, I understand. I mean, if we come up with some big project, well, yeah.
the hourly rate I would assume is right in line with what Dr. Hutchison was charging. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Before the unfortunate separation of Dr. Hutchinson and the district,
Mhm.
all concerned parties were excited about the model.
Mhm.
So the expectation from Dr. Hutchinson that was supposed to happen, whatever, late last year was a model.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you could quickly weigh in on, what you foresee happening to pick up that, because without the model and without the, knowing what wells are linked to the spring, et cetera, that the model should have been able to do, it's hard for us to do our job. So initially, my opinion on this, I mean, I look forward to working with, let's just say someone like you, and I'm impressed with your credentials, but, I feel like we need a model, and, and I would weigh in with you too, Charlie, that, personally, I would rather see, I could produce the model that would not promise to do this, but, in 6 months, I could give you this model for X amount of dollars. You know what I'm saying? So I guess my short answer would be, how do you see the future of that model happening?
Well, this productive dialogue right here is exactly what I would hope for. Right now, you're outlining what you believe one of your key priorities is, and this is exactly why I would like to meet with the committee, with other
Right.
board members to figure out what all those are, and then figure out what that balance is. If everyone wants to continue that model and the development of that model and bring that model to fruition over the next 6 to 12 months, well, then that's the direction we'll go.
Right.
I'm a strong believer that a model is only as good as the data that's going into the model. I know Jim's been collecting data, and
No,
I know
I agree.
recent
Like,
board
I'm
meetings-
personally not a model, necessarily a model proponent. I'm not sure the model is really the answer, but, that was the answer that we were told was the answer before, probably.
Now, the model is a piece of the puzzle here. And so if that's the direction that the board decides to go, we'll go that direction. But if the board wants to take a look at other things, water levels, correlations with wells, maybe management zone 1, revisit management zone 1, 2, and 3 again. If that's a stronger priority at this time, I'd be more than happy to go that direction. But ultimately, it's the board's decision in terms of what direction I will go with the work that we do for you. We can easily, continue down the path of using the model and building upon the model. There's going to be competing priorities and
I
interests
understand,
here, so.
and, whatever, there's a lot of opinions on how valuable models are. Anyway, so, all right. Thank you.
My goal is to work with the board, figure out what everyone's kind of priorities, what those interests are, and then massage all that into something that makes sense, bring that back to the board for board approval as what I'm calling a project action item list here. And then hopefully, stay on that path forward or whatever those timelines are that we outline. And we'll have key milestone dates in there where we can revisit things. We'll, I'm sure, have some deliverables that are due 3 months out, 6 months out. Those provide us time to regroup and rethink about things. Things change too. We could have 30 inches of rainfall this year, surprisingly. Priorities may change then at that point in time too. So the nice thing here is I'm very flexible in what I can do for the district and what I would love to do for the district in terms of helping advance us towards some policy and sound management decisions as it relates to the groundwater resources out here.
Charlie, another question?
Yes, sir.
We were led to believe that, when Bill resigned last winter, that he had all the data sufficient for this zone 1, 2, 3 thing we're talking about. All the hydrogeology was done. It's just a matter of, I don't know, digesting it and spitting out a report. Assuming, I mean, we've been waiting on that for over a year. So it's, talk about 6 to 12 months. I mean, six is too long. in my opinion.
Mhm.
I mean, if it's certainly no longer than that, assuming we could get board approval.
We're getting a
For-
little bit off.
I'm talking
track.
Wes.
No, I'm trying to
I
tell you,
know,
we're
I'm
getting a little
talking
off
Wes.
track.
Wes, don't interrupt, please, please.
No, I'm trying to tell you, you're getting off
And
topic.
assuming we can get board approval to proceed on this zone 1, 2, and 3 thing, any rough idea how long that would take? I mean, is that 1 month? Is that 3 months?
So,
I mean, just,
I-
again, nobody's holding you to, you
I-
haven't seen stuff,
I,
but just, give us an idea.
So I mentioned I went back and I watched all the previous meetings. I assisted Bill at some key phases of his model development. I have yet to look at what that final deliverable was that he provided to the board. So I really need time to look at that before I can provide you an informed answer on that point. I would hate to guess and say something that is
Yeah.
grossly inaccurate.
Well,
But that's exactly what this kind of kickoff task allows me to do is really think about this more methodically, dive into what Bill has provided the district here over the last 4 years.
so if we pass this kickoff tonight, would you have time, say, by the next meeting in August to give us at least a rough time frame of when you could come up with that?
If that's a directive I received from the board here tonight, that's something I could do.
Thank you. I yield.
Any further discussion concerning the contract with Freese and Nichols?
Is Greg on the phone or is he available?
Greg,
I'm here.
you have a question for Greg?
I do. Greg, Dave Palmer. I'm not sure who on the board has seen and reviewed this contract. The first time I've seen it is right now. I have heard that you've seen it, and I just wonder if you had any comments or recommendations before the vote happens.
This is a very standard contract. I've seen this Freese and Nichols contract for a couple of my different clients. I don't see any differences in it. It does provide for fees set by,
We lost you there. It does provide for fees set by what? Greg? Yeah, we lost him. Yeah, right.
There.
great question.
Technical difficulty.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we lost you there for a minute, Greg. Yes, sir.
Okay, it's a very standard Freese and Nichols contract that I've seen for multiple different clients at Freese with groundwater conservation, different clients at Freese and Nichols. And there's nothing unusual about it. This is a task-based contract, so the fees will be set based on whatever task is assigned. And there's nothing in the contract that I find that's connectional that we need to have paid.
Thank you. Any further questions, discussion? Got a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? 5 in favor, 1 against. Mr. Claus, you have an appointment tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
So unless the rest of the board needs you here, I think you can hit the road.
I look forward to working with you. It's a pleasure meeting everyone here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Very much.
Appreciate you driving out.
Might want to have him hang around for the draft plan.
Oh,
That's what I
yeah.
thought too.
All right.
Yep, yep.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
Yeah, you're not off the hook yet, buddy.
Thanks, Greg.
Well, is there really a
Okay.
reason for that? I'm not sure.
Well, it was a suggestion and he's gonna stay. So,
Well, he could.
general manager's
you
report.
could move it to Brooks Landing now.
Yeah, we can move the drought plan up if you want to.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, let's hang on, Janelle, we're gonna take 11 up. And do that one right now. So. Drought management plan, Director Palmer.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just start the conversation, and I'm not sure exactly where the conversation will go today, but just to address what each of the directors and Janelle, and Greg also. I hope, Greg, you're there and you have a draft drought plan, I think, right?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So just a short history without getting too much into that. A drought committee was established by the board, which consisted of myself and Director Gaines and Director Minley. So we've met, I don't know, Charlie, 4 or 5 times, 3 or 4 times. Spell it about 4 times and discussed what we think a drought plan might look like in the future, given the information, best available science that we know now, and what we were able to put together based on quite a bit of other information. So taking our district mission, you know, what's in the management plan, it's specific to what we're required to do, you know, manage the groundwater basically for the benefit of all and for future generations. And the purpose of the management plan is to provide guidance to the district for managing the production of groundwater in the district. I'm paraphrasing basically, but without unduly increasing the frequency of natural cycles of the springs and intermittent streams from going dry. So the DFC is established, and we're all familiar that the DFC will probably change in some way, or maybe not in the future. That's something the board will have to address, you know, and not that distant of the future. But right now, the DFC is to maintain a certain spring flow, 23.9 annual average cubic feet per second is what our desired future condition is. And our task is to manage to that. So right now, our drought management plan, let's just say, likely needs some expansion and some improvement. So in the effort to do that, the drought committee has produced this product that you see in front of you. And I imagine, I don't know where this will go. This becomes public after this meeting, I imagine. In the lead up to this, all the directors and the general manager were asked to provide inputs. So other than the input from one of those people to get away from the spring, the drought committee, the 3 persons on it, were left to develop this. And so we did, and here it is. And so I fully expect there to be comment on it. You know, what was used to produce this, and this was given to the members of the drought planning committee. Our notebooks have basically drought plans from the Jacobs Well, Krause Springs, San Marcos, Comal Springs, Martin Springs, the old Kinney County drought plan that some citizens recommended. We have some information that a committee formed by Schott, Gaines, and Bland, that was the original drought committee. So Charlie, those things that you have about the drought plan were considered. And then the Plateau Region Water Plan, and then some things from Dr. Hutchinson, his recommendations when he resigned, and Winter Garden is in there too. So we looked at a whole bunch of different things that are working throughout the state, mostly focus on groundwater conservation districts that have a spring. That's, you know, so we all have different opinions on that, but the spring is the DFC, and this plan was designed to help the board in their effort to achieve 24, give or take, average annual spring flow. So that's what it is. You know, we welcome public comments. The process from here, you know, Charlie might go to that, what the process from here is, and Greg, you could weigh in on what the process is too, but that's pretty much all I got to say about it.
Well, I would like to make a comment right now. The board did not form that committee. I did.
Okay.
And I asked you to provide all the information that you were considering to the rest of the board. You never did that. This was apparently provided to the public before it was provided to the board.
I'm not aware of what you're talking about. If you want to expand on that, go ahead.
There was solicitation at the Fort Clark Springs Board of Directors meetings for attendance because you were ready to present. You were at the meeting.
What are you talking about?
Elizabeth Hodges stood up and said that the plan was completed and encouraged the board to attend because you were presenting tonight.
No,
You're-
sir.
I don't know what you're talking
No,
about.
sir.
It's on the
That's
video.
incorrect information. No, sir.
Well, I guess my eyes just didn't see it, huh? And then it went out on an email to all the Fort Clark membership.
So what are you saying, Wes? So
I'm
what?
saying you released information from your committee before you brought it back to your board, and that's not the way the committee process is supposed to work.
I'm not sure how that's relevant to what we're talking about, and you'll have to show me what you're saying that.
Why it's not relevant? And it makes it very difficult to act on anything that came out of your committee when you're reporting back to the public, not your board. It's a three-man committee. You're not meeting in public.
Oh, I understand that, but so what, I don't know what you're talking about act on, because discuss this, and it might say.
We're up for an
possible
action. We're
Yeah,
up for an
well,
action item. So
I'm not
it's on the
recommending,
agenda.
I'm not recommending any action at this point.
Well, I just don't understand what was out to the public, Director, before it came to this board.
Well, if you're saying that the public had this, that's.
I don't know if
not
they
accurate.
did or not, but apparently they had knowledge of it.
No, they didn't.
Excuse me. You did not. Can I read what was?
I mean, if you're saying knowledge of it, like this has never been sent.
I've
To the
said
best
what
of
I'm
my
going to say,
knowledge.
Director.
That's fine. You
Continue
can,
forward.
but
I
that's
yield.
fine. I mean, we can talk about it, Wes, and if you think I did something wrong and I did, I'll step up to that. I got no problem with that. But the point remains, and I think the focus needs to be, this is a best effort. There's a lot of time put into this. And y'all, all the board members that are outside the drought planning committee need to look at this, and then, if you don't like it, or you like parts of it but don't like parts of it, there's a lot of, I think, good stuff in here. There's a lot of crop protection information in here.
We can discuss it in committee because we're all on your committee now.
So that's fine, and I think that's a better move anyway, because the committee, this is an important thing. The community deserves a good drought plan, and the more minds we got going to it, the better. You've said
Notice of
before,
our meetings.
you
Notice
said
of
before
the
that it's
meeting.
not a priority, but maybe it is. And I hope that it becomes a priority, and I hope we all look at it.
I've
That's
got a
great.
problem with it being used as a political tool.
It's not
that
being
way,
used
and
as a
that's
political
what it
tool.
looks like. So
Well,
we're putting everybody on the board, and we're going to meet in public.
Great. I look forward to it.
So do I.
I have something to say.
Sure.
I only saw this tonight at our committee meeting. So I don't know where you're getting your information.
That makes it
Anyway.
even more suspect, Director.
No, but we've had a couple of drafts. We've talked about it. What we
How the
decided,
public knows it's complete.
hello,
How does the public know it's complete 2 weeks ago, Director?
it's not complete.
Wes, is it complete?
It's
It's
not
not
complete.
complete. It's not
It's not
complete.
complete. What we discussed tonight, and we're not going to vote on anything tonight. At next meeting, procedurally, what we're going to do is there'll be two different plans outlined only, for the board to consider. If the board approves
It
either,
has to get out of committee first, Director. It's
I'm
going to
sorry,
have to
they're
get
going
out
to
of
be, they're
committee
going,
before it's presented to the board. And
And
we're all
the-
on the committee now.
no, we're not. That violates open meeting and all that.
No, it doesn't, because we're going to meet and open so the public can hear us all
Okay.
deliberated.
Well,
There's not going to be anything
what we have,
behind closed
what we
doors.
have come up with are two different plans. They're similar, but with different triggers. We're going to present those two in outline form to the board next month. It'll be on the agenda. And the board will,
You have to get it out of committee before you can get it to the
we
board.
did that tonight.
No.
We did that tonight.
Because we're all on the committee now and we're going to have to
No,
vote
you weren't
on
on the committee at 4:30 when we met.
it. Okay.
We did that tonight. The committee decided that we're going to present two in outline form. The board will vote them up or down. If it's up, then they'll be submitted to Greg to put it in legal terms. Then it'll go out to the public for a hearing and so forth. And then after that's done, then the board can vote,
I'm
you
sure.
know, permanently or
We'll
not.
discuss it
But that's
more
what
committee.
the committee came up with tonight, which, you know, the plan that you see here, and there'll be another one in outline form next month. And then the board can say yay or nay on one of those, and then it'll
That'll
go
be done in
go to
committee,
Greg.
Director.
Pardon me?
That will be done in committee.
Do what?
That will be done in committee because we're
It was
all
done. We finished it this afternoon.
No, you're telling
If
me
you want
what
to
you're
form
going to
another
do
committee,
before.
that's your
No,
privilege.
no, Director. I'm revamping the Drought Management Committee and everybody's on it. So before next month,
as a
you're going
point-
to have a meeting
as a
right
point-
now.
Okay, but your former committee that you formed has already met, has already done something.
Charlie, let's
We
ask
have it
Greg what he
finished.
thinks about it.
We have it finished. Now you can form another one.
I thought it wasn't
That's your
finished. Now it's
privilege.
Okay.
But the drought committee that you already formed has finalized 2 outlines that will be presented next month.
Okay, well, you're going to meet before next month's meeting, aren't you?
Depends on my schedule.
Oh.
You know,
Oh.
if you want to have a meeting on it, you certainly can call me.
You got to talk to the chair. He runs the committee.
Greg, are you there?
I'm here.
Obviously, you've heard most of this. Hopefully, I know you can hear it better if you show up, and we're working on that, as you well know. But does the committee have to change to a 7-member committee, or can we present 2 plans and go from there to present it to you and then to a public hearing? What do you recommend?
Sounds like the president is appointing a committee of the whole, in which case the 2 plans could be submitted to that committee of the whole. It feels like 6 to 1 and half dozen the other team. You want to make the presentation of the 2 plans you're recommending to the full board member. So yeah, that's what should happen. It doesn't matter to me if you call it a committee of the whole or you call it a board meeting. It's going to have to be an open meeting and posted the same as with any other regular board meeting.
Right.
The point is getting the deliberation out of the business meeting, Greg.
I understand, and that's I think a committee of the whole or a workshop of the board, either one is a great way to have a full and open discussion about these types of issues. When the group as a whole is ready to make a recommendation, yes, I think I would very much like an opportunity to go through and do some wordsmithing on it. This is essentially, although it's called a drought plan, it is essentially a rule because you're requiring activities of people outside the office, outside the district, outside the confines of the way that the district operates. You're requiring things of permittees as well. So we need to use the rulemaking process to adopt it finally. Before we start that rulemaking process, however, and I'm glad Vince is still there, I would strongly recommend we have an evaluation of it by the hydrogeologist to tell us what the impact is. Those
Yeah, sure.
10% number, 20%, 30 or 40% number of cutbacks right now, I don't believe, unless there has been work done by Dr. Bill and I'm not aware of, don't have any scientific backing to say that this will have this much impact on the spring flood. But that's what I think we need to have before we send this out to the public as a proposed rule.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was just going to reemphasize what Greg touched on there. I think that, Vince, you absolutely need to look this over. And I know it's going to take time, but we're kind of pressed. But as far as the zones go, I mean, I think that's more important than the model at this point to get this thing finalized. But, you know, like I said, we've got to get together and give you a
Board's pleasure.
yeah, give you a way to get through it and what we need done. But I think the zones are absolutely, because since Dr. Bill formed those 2 years ago, let's just say, he was even kind of, if I'm not mistaken, Jim.
We've got more information now. A lot more.
That might be the thing that we need to work on first. So, any further,
Okay, so
any further discussion on this
so I
item?
didn't recommend any action. So that was just
No, nobody's
discussion.
made a motion. I'm just asking if there's
They
anything
could
else.
if they want to.
No, certainly. They could if they wanted to. I'm just asking if there's anything before I move to the next item.
That's all I got.
Okay. let's jump back up to general manager report, number 7.
You don't, Vince?
Okay, since the last.
I don't know. Is there anything, Greg, is there anything else that you think we might need Vince for on this agenda?
I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. I want to make sure Vince has discussion about the drought plan and the need for his input on it.
Welcome to Kinney County.
Thank you. I'll catch the rest of the meeting.
All right, thank.
Take care. Thank you for your time.
See you.
Thank you.
General manager's report.
Okay, since the last board meeting, there've been 2 exempt well applications. Both of them for the same individual out on Rosa Road. I think one of them was for really good well, and so they moved over and some conditions. So we're drilling again. We've not, I believe we've got the drillers logs back yet. GMA 7 will be meeting in San Angelo on the 7th.
Excuse me, don't do that.
I'm sorry, I just can't hear.
Pardon?
Could you speak up a little bit?
She can't hear you.
Okay, since the last board meeting, there have been 2 exempt well applications submitted by the same individual. Both of those were off of Tularosa Road. One of them, I think, wasn't a real good well. It might have been a dry hole, I'm not sure. But then they moved over and drilled another one. We've not got the drilling log back yet, so I'm not sure on that. The next GMA 7 meeting will be next Thursday, the 17th in Sonora. I plan to attend, and I don't know if a board member plans to attend or not. The GMA 10 will be meeting on the 16th, 17th of August in San Antonio. Immediately following that is the Texas Alliance of Groundwater District Summit, and which will run for 3 days. Plan to attend that along with several board members. Greg has provided us a list of the bills that have been approved, and I've got copies for the board members. I think it's in your packet. And certainly, if anybody wants to come by and look at a copy, they're more than welcome to. One item that's coming up pretty soon is we've always had 72 hours to post notice for our board meetings. The last legislature changed that to where it's 3 business days as opposed to 72 hours. So that will, could have an effect. So, but we work with that. It's not a big thing. Greg, if you're still on there, do you want to expand a little bit on the water bills that were presented in the past?
I did the signal drop there for just a second, but I think I got the gist of what you was talking about. Legislature passed quite a few bills amending Chapter 36 this session without anything real dramatic out there that we need to worry about. It will require some rule changes, again, minor adjustments. You can take a look at, you should have copies of each one of the bills. You can take a look at them and see what you think. For the most part, and of course, we had one with a non-Chapter 36 bill that will have a big impact on how you operate in terms of posting your meeting. The Open Meetings Act has been amended so that it no longer is a 72-hour rule for posting a meeting. It's now a 3 business day posting a meeting. I've talked with the staff of the House author of that bill and asked a question that they had to go research. So it wasn't I think it was a harder question than I intended it to be. To be on the safe side, I think what we have to do really is have almost a 5-day posting requirement. In other words, if you want to meet on a Friday, you need to post it by Monday. That way there are 3 business days between the posting and the meeting. Now you can post any time on Monday, and you can meet at any time on Friday. But that way there'll be 3 full business days between the posting and the meeting. If you're going to meet on Monday, then you need to post it no later than Tuesday of the week before. Well, that I think is an important change. Some of the other changes deal with one of the bills that dealt with exports got vetoed by the governor. That was one. If there's going to be a big export, it's going to have a dramatic impact on wells outside the district, whereas the permit's being issued. They would have to provide notice outside the district of that permit being applied for. But the governor vetoed that bill. Yeah,
Thank you.
take a look at some of the other bills here that,
Well, how much of this is under item 10 too, the rules and bylaws update? Was that
how
part,
much of this, what?
was part of this also under agenda item 10, the rules, report on the rules and bylaws update? I thought part of these
I don't have any draft rules ready for you to look at them in terms of the legislative update. That's why you be aware we are gonna have to update the rules. based on-
well, I was just kind of pointing out to the board that this is kind of covering two agenda items.
I'll be happy to wait if you would like.
No, I'm just pointing out to them. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Trying to pull up my list of. Okay, House Bill 1633 deals with the criteria you have to consider. Really, all that changes is, right now, when you're considering issuing a permit, you have to consider the impact on other permitted well owners. Under 1633, you're also going to have to consider the impact on exempt use well owners who have registered with exempt wells. Now, obviously, we can't consider the impact on wells we don't know about. So if it doesn't have a permit and it's not registered with the district, then we don't know about it. There's nothing we can do to try and protect it. But if we have a registered well out there and we find out that this pumping is likely to have an impact on that registered well, we need to know that, and we need to act accordingly. Now, that doesn't mean that we need to regulate the shallowest well in the system, but it does mean we have to consider that impact. And so there is money now available, especially from export fees, if there are any in the district, to allow for mitigation of wells that are impacted by the overall aquifer levels and drawdown. That doesn't mean you have to do that. It's not a requirement to do that. Again, it's not a requirement you turn down a permit because it's going to have a dramatic impact on a very shallow well. I have a client that has an area where most of the wells are 70, 80 feet deep, and during a bad drought, during a high irrigation season, those wells tend to go dry. Their solution is to go dry, drill deeper wells, or probably better yet, their solution really ought to be to go work together to drill a community well and have a utility that operates for all of them. Their chosen solution has been to wait for terrain. Moving on to House Bill 1689. That deals with the export fees collected by a district. And again, this was the one that was vetoed by the governor. So it doesn't have any impact. But all that would have done is say that you had to, wait, is that the right one? No, I'm sorry. This is not one veto. This is the one on export fees that allows you to use funds that you collect as export fees to maintain the operability of wells described by subsection B1, which are those exempt use wells and permit wells. So if you had export fees, then you would have the ability to utilize those export fees to mitigate wells. You don't have any export fees, and frankly, with any luck, you won't ever have any export fees. So it really doesn't matter to your operation. Probably the biggest change this session is from House Bill 2078. And this is where you're going to have to, as part of your GMA planning process and your management planning process, you're going to have to include an explanation in plain language of how the district is monitoring, tracking the achievement of the desired conditions, and that the district has performed, what the district has performed in achieving its desired conditions, and for the preceding 5-year joint planning period. So that's, we now have kind of a 5-year report and a 10-year report. not less than during every 5-year period, the management plans of each district in the management area have to be reviewed by the GMA, make sure that their plans are compatible, and also they're wanting to report from the district on whether or not they're actually achieving the desired future conditions. And the desired future condition, it has to be adopted for at approximately a 50-year planning period. And you're going to have specific goals for each 10 years of that 50-year period. So that you can't just say, for example, a lot of the districts, a lot of the GMAs have aquifer level declines as their desired future condition. So when they announce we're not going to have more than 20 feet of decline, technically under the current law, you could say, well, we've already had 50 feet of decline, so you haven't achieved the desired future condition. The defense to that is, well, but we have a plan to get it back up to no more than 20 feet by the end of the 50-year period, so we're still in compliance. And here you're going to have to meet 10-year goals because they're still passed. So I think that's important to note. You're going to, you and all the other districts within your GMA are going to have these 10-year goals as part of your planning process. By the way, this takes effect on September 1st, and so that means it's going to have to be part of this current planning process. So the next DFC that you adopt is going to have not just a 50-year goal, it's going to have 10-year goals throughout.
Yay, more work.
Do within the GMA process is have a plain language explanation of why a desired future condition was adopted for an aquifer and it was changed from the prior one that was adopted, and why that change was made, and a summary of how each district is performing and achieving its desired future condition. So that again is the biggest change I think we've had from any of the bills that have passed this session. House Bill 2080 deals with the duties of a GCD during the TCQ evaluation process. That's not anything that you all have participated in or has been aimed at you. That has been used a few times in the past. This simply clarifies that when districts participate in that process as a volunteer to assess whether or not the target district is a operational district or not, then they get reimbursed by the commission for all of their expenses for serving on the review panel. So I think that was very important. It also adds some additional stuff that has to be done and provide some clarity on who has to do what, who pays for what during that review process. Again, hopefully it will never be targeted at you. And but if Janelle ever volunteers to serve on a panel, at least now you know you're going to be covering your expenses for her to serve on the panel. House Bill 5560 changes penalty amounts for groundwater conservation districts. It has for the last 30 years been $10,000 per day per violation. That's now changed to $25,000 per day per violation. And also, there's a provision that says in determining the amount of the civil penalty, meaning the amount awarded by the judge has to look at the nature, circumstances, extent, duration, and gravity of the violation, and the impact on groundwater resources, other people's right to produce water, the public health and safety, the impact on the environment. And with respect to the violators, that the judge has to consider the history and extent of previous violations, degree of culpability of that violator, the demonstrated good faith, including the actions taken by them to try and rectify the cause of the problem, and whether there's economic benefit gained by the violation, and if so, the amount of that economic benefit, and the amount necessary to deter future violations. So the judge will be allowed to include an amount of the penalty that would recover or offset whatever economic benefit the violator enjoyed by violating the district rules. And then the bill was amended pretty dramatically over the Senate side that allows the court to defer the penalty while the entity works on rectifying the various problems, and also determine Well, also, it kind of sets out special rules for utilities that they get to recover whatever penalties they have to pay for whichever of their customers were the ones primarily responsible for them being in violation. Which is the first time ever that we give them, especially investor-owned utilities, that type of power over their customers. We haven't really had any enforcement actions at KCGCD, so I don't know that this will have a big impact on how you operate, but we do need to amend some rules to implement that particular bill. That's okay. There's a provision in Senate Bill 766, which is a very long bill, where they have changed the various references. I'm sorry, I put this in here only because it amends chapter 36, and it changes the reference to from Texas Natural Resources Conservation Commission, which is now about 12 years old. That hasn't existed for a long time, and now reads Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So that I've got a copy of that page in there for you, but that's only because it amends chapter 36. Senate Bill 1583 has to do with management plans that are adopted by the district. And the main purpose of this is to address what happens if you have your desired future condition petition and declared unreasonable. In the past, there was a problem when that happened to Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. And when they adopted their management plan, they said, we don't have a desired future condition. Water Development Authority said, you have to have one because the plan is incomplete without one. They said, but it's been declared unreasonable. They said, okay, we'll go back and use the one that came 5 years before that. They said, well, that's not a good result. So what this does is it says, if you have your DFC declared unreasonable, you continue to use it until the GMA has adopted a new DFC to replace it. So if your management plan is due during that time period between the declaration that your DFC is unreasonable and the operation of the new one, you still have to use the unreasonable DFC as part of your management plan. But then you can update that management plan as soon as the new DFC is adopted. So that's really all the bills I need to talk about. There's only a couple here that really need to do any. There's not a lot of dramatic rulemaking that has to be done. Changing a few numbers and changing a few references. So I will be drafting up kind of a cheat sheet on what I think all my clients need to do to fix their rules based on this legislation passed. I will mention real quickly that the House Natural Resources Committee is meeting on Tuesday to consider the impact on the Natchez and Trinity Valley Groundwater Conservation District for a planned export project. And that could have a dramatic impact on export rules for all groundwater conservation districts. Chairman Cody Harris has said if he doesn't hear what he wants to hear during that committee hearing, he will be asking the governor to add that issue to the upcoming special session, which begins on July 21st. I did send out today, if you may not have seen it, I sent it out late this afternoon. I got it late this afternoon, the governor's call for this special session. And I'll be happy to go over what's in the call and all that. I want to get to that agenda item.
Greg, what about House Bill 4630?
I'm sorry, what number?
4630?
4630.
Says it's a repealing of the TCEQ authority over artesian wells.
I can't hear you.
Matt said it's relating to the regulation of artesian wells by the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality.
Oh, yeah. A long time ago, they put a bunch of rules into that TCQ within the Texas Water Commission statute to require them to regulate artesian wells. I think what they meant at the time were free-flowing artesian wells that flow at the surface whenever without the aid of a pump. And frankly, the commission never done anything about it. They've never adopted really any rules that deal with it. And so what that bill did is if you repeal almost all of that statute, it gives them any authority over artesian wells and leaves all that work to groundwater conservation. The true definition of an artesian well is anytime a well is under pressure, so that it pushes water up above the first impermeable level of that aquifer. That's considered artesian, and so that's and that's almost all the aquifers in the state. Any aquifer that's under pressure is considered artesian. But those old rules, those old statutes, were aimed at things like the catfish farm in San Antonio, you might have heard about, where you opened it up and water shot up in the air 30 feet. So those are the ones they're mostly concerned about. And again, the commission never really did anything about it. So I don't, that certainly doesn't change anything that you have to operate on here.
I don't have any questions on it.
Anything else on this one? Agenda item 8. Discussion possible action performance evaluation of the general manager. Greg, do you want to explain the process we need to go through to do this? What we've got to do the evaluation? Greg?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question was if you wanted to explain our process to evaluate the general manager, number 8.
Okay. First off, I think it's always a good idea to do regular evaluations of the general manager. It's a good idea for the general manager to do regular evaluations of the employees that work for her. It will help the general manager do a better job. It'll help the board, make sure that they're doing their job to follow up on what the general manager is supposed to do. The best process is to have an outline of what you expect of the general manager and present that at the beginning of her year so she knows when she's expected to do that. I think at this point, it might be a good idea to have an evaluation form, kind of a standard evaluation form, presented to each of the directors that they can fill out and then provide those. What I typically did when I was general manager at DAA is those that we provided to the chairman of the board, and the chairman of the board would then meet with me and tell me what basically where I stood with all the a combination of directors without me seeing which director said what. Now, there are times when I can guess which director said what about me, but it allowed the director to be a little freer on what they said and allow that to be a private conversation between the president of the board, the chairman of the board, and myself as general manager. If at any point, that way you have documentation. And if at any point you feel like there's a need to move on from a general manager to find somebody else, you will have documentation of what was expected of the general manager and documentation of how those expectations were not met. One of the worst things you could do is have a general manager who either has never had an evaluation or has had evaluations that all came out with excellent reviews, and then suddenly decide you're going to fire that general manager. I think that's a road that will lead to potential litigation. So, to me, the best process is set out what the goals are. Be clear what the goals are at the beginning of the year, and then a good evaluation by the directors of whether or not those goals have been met at the end of the year.
So Greg, Dave Palmer question. So if none of that's been in place up to now, what do you recommend? And I guess, Matt, you've been on the board for a long time. When was the last time an employee has been evaluated with a standard form?
The last time was probably about a little over a year ago.
The general manager is evaluated every year. Employees are evaluated on their anniversary date, and the general manager is too on their anniversary date.
Okay, so that happens.
That's done every year.
Every year.
Yes, sir.
So when would it come up this year?
Well, it was to come up in June.
It was, but it
Yes,
didn't.
but there was so much other stuff going on.
Okay.
So,
And then Greg, another question. Texas is what do you call it? A free will state?
At will.
At will state. What does that mean?
That means there's no contract. That means that every employee serves at the will of that district or that agency. So any employee can be fired at any time. Now, having said that, we have to remember that there are also federal laws that deal with this. And there's always, possible questions of discrimination, of hostile work environment, of improper firing. So you have to be careful. Still have to be careful about any type of situation where someone's going to get fired. You want to be very careful about how you do it and have it properly documented.
Thank you. Anything else?
I think it'd be a good idea, Janelle, for you to share the evaluation that you had last year with the board and have them take a look at the evaluation form so that they can see what, how you've been evaluated in the past, and if they want to make any changes to future evaluation.
Yeah, we have a copy of the form in our packet, Greg, but we don't have the last one that was done.
There's a job description also.
Yeah. So you could send those to us, or we could pick them up. I don't know if we'd need to. Can we send those to us via email, or would it be better to pick up hard copies of that evaluation, Greg?
Oh, I think either way, I think it's fine.
Sure.
Whether it's an open record or confidential record doesn't depend on the form it takes. Doesn't have a hard copy or email. Same rule.
Right. So even if we get an email, if it's confidential, we just can't disseminate it.
Right.
So, I think that would probably be the best way to do that, was be for her to send those via email to the board. And that way we'd have them a little quicker. Does that sound reasonable?
Send the job description to the board members.
Yeah, the job description and the previous evaluation.
So you want us to fill this out by when?
Well, that was a suggestion that Greg had, was to fill it out and bring it back to the
Next time?
chair. Well, no, because it'd be better if you just send them to me as soon as you can. So when I get all of them, I can look at them and then we can talk.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to wait, to turn them in a month. That just delays things. So
Okay.
just send them to me as quickly as you fill them out. And when I get all 7 of them, I'll sit down and go over them with you now.
Okay.
Anything else on this one?
We can just scan this one and email it to you too, right?
Yeah, I don't know why not. Yeah, be fine. Okay, moving on. Discussion possible action, state auditors report on the district compliant with chapter 36 water code and other applicable laws. This was tabled last week. This is your agenda item, Director. What do you want to do?
What are you looking at?
You, Director Palmer, you had this on here last month and it was tabled, so it's back on the agenda again because it was tabled. It has to come back up, so I'm asking you what action you want to take, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I just briefly like to mention it, I guess, again, and the report, I don't think we've really addressed it in meetings to the extent that it probably should be, and mostly as the public comment was, I think we owe it to the public to be a little more open with what's actually been done to fix what the audit found. The audit, to me, is a significant thing that highlights us in a priority rating negative way, that we owe it to our constituents to explain how we're fixing it. And to tell you the truth, at this point, I haven't been explained from management or from the board itself about what we've done to correct what the findings of the audit were. And I think we need to hurry up, and hopefully maybe I'm just unaware of what's been done to fix it. And you, Mr. Robinson, Director Robinson, or General Manager Janelle, you could take the baton there, and if you want to talk about what's fixed and what's left to fix or not. But I just want to highlight that it's important that we fix those things in quick, because if we don't, somebody else probably will for us. So I think we need to self-serve fix those things. And I think we need to talk, after, and this will come and it relates to item number 8. I think the responsibility is shared for all these discrepancies between the responsibility is shared between the board and the general manager and all the employees too. But you know, it boils down to accountability, and part of that would be, you know, related to performance evaluations. And I think we need to talk as a board, and I would prefer to do that in a closed session. You know, what needs to be done accountability wise. So that's what I had to say about that.
Well,
I don't recommend any possible action other than I hope we can pretty soon give the public a better answer to, did you fix those things or not?
I think this is one that would be perfect for a workshop in the public if we're going to talk about this audit and what we're going to do about it. Wouldn't it, Greg? Nah, you nodded
guess-
off again.
I guess I'm confused because everything we've been doing on our bylaws meetings is to fix this. The
Uh,
test wells, the rules on that, that's all we've been working on.
But, well,
part of it is that. Part of it's already been addressed as far as the sign, making sure that the duplicate checks are also two-party signed as well as the first one. There's been several things like that have been done. As
Is
a
that
matter
on
of
the
fact,
public
some
tech
of them are
questions?
mentioned right here in the packet on.
you know, what
on
I'd
the
say on
item.
that, Blake, is, you know, we have some work to do to fix the bylaws and the rules, obviously, you know, we need to do that, but violations of the current bylaws and the rules are still violations of the bylaws and rules that existed at the time of the audit. So those need to be,
How do you
Yeah.
rectify that though?
Well, that's
Well,
what I'm
that's what
trying
I'm
to
talking
say.
about,
That's
yeah.
what I'm trying to get to. All right. But if we're going to rectify that, then we have to figure out first. We got to figure out what the problem is, what the solution is, how we're going to do it, and we're going to have to discuss it together about the audit. And that's why I got upset last month that we even had it on there, because there's no way we can do that in a business meeting. We're going to have a special
Right, it's
meeting
gonna
or a
take some
workshop to just talk about this.
agreed. So
Yeah,
that's
we kind of got to bifurcate some things into, we're going to talk on this one in this meeting and this
special
one in
meeting
that
or
one.
whatever you want to do.
Well, I don't know how we can get it done if we don't. Because there's not enough time in one meeting a month to address all these things. And that's why I want to use committee system
So
to get
do
some of
we-
this debate out of the business meeting and into committee, where people can come to the committee meeting, the public can attend it, they can see where all the directors stand on everything, we can have open discussions in public about it, and then once pretty much everybody ought to know where everybody kind of sits by the time it comes out of committee and it goes to business meetings. Okay, those can be at the convenience of the public and everything else. But the business meeting, you can't get all this stuff done in here. It's not realistic to think that you can't.
Would it be, in your opinion, smart to move to set up a special meeting, or is that something you can just do?
I am game for the board's pleasure, whether it's a special meeting, it's a workshop, it's a committee. You know, you guys tell me what you want to do. That's what we're gonna try to do. My only point with it is you can't expect to do all of that in one day a month. It's not
Okay.
it's
I'll do
not
that.
feasible. So we need to have a special meeting
I
that
move
just
that we,
just pertains to that. Can we get Greg back up? Because I want to know just the format that would be best for it. Greg, are you there? Greg, hello.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
It's okay. We're discussing, let me get to item 9, and wanting to go over the state auditor report so we can address that and figure out the solutions for the problems that are mentioned in it. And I'm wanting to know if it's better to do that in a workshop or a committee or what, open meeting. We want to have a special meeting basically just for that item so we can spend the time on it.
That's not a problem. I mean,
I'm just asking, what is the best format? Is it a workshop? Is it a special meeting? What do we need to call it?
well, under the Open Meetings Act, they're all the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, they're all open meetings. They have to be posted. You're gonna have an agenda. If you have a single item agenda that's set it up as a workshop, then yes, that provides, we're gonna give everybody a signal that that's gonna be a lot more time on that particular item.
My only concern is getting the right format, whatever you want to do, Director.
yeah, no, let's do it. I move that we create a workshop next month, separate from the normal meeting, to talk specifically about the state auditor's report and what our plan is to rectify the finding.
Well, Are you talking about the same day?
No, separate meeting.
Well, let's go ahead and pick the date.
Give a date and a time.
Okay.
I'm,
What works for you?
I don't know, but
When's the next regular meeting?
Well, we still have to have our bylaws committee meeting.
which is, what's the bylaw?
Or are we doing that? We're doing Tuesday night?
we haven't set another one.
Okay.
Because we didn't do it at the last meeting. And we'll get to that one in the next
Yeah.
agenda item.
We just don't want to conflict with it.
No, well, we won't. We'll just put it on a different day.
So it's right in there. So why don't we call it August 14th at 6 p.m. Thursday.
That's so far down the road.
Yeah, I mean, if it's.
That's a long way.
August?
Yeah, August 14th. That's after the next meeting.
Oh,
After the next
That's
meeting.
after the next meeting. So
Yeah.
let's go with the next regular meeting is what? The 13th,
Second, yes.
second Wednesday. So we can make it the 7th then. The week before. I was picking a Thursday or Friday because I think Greg's more available Thursday or Friday, but
7th is fine by me.
I prefer the week of July 21st, if it matters. 2 weeks from now.
That's fine with me.
21st.
Make it
I
work.
won't be here then, but
Oh,
I'm not available on the 24th, but other than that, I'm open that week.
I need it to be after the
Yeah, and
25th.
it doesn't matter. Do it whenever.
All right. We go to the 7th?
Yeah.
Okay, the motion is to have a workshop on the state auditor's report on August 7th, 6 p.m. We have a second.
Second.
A motion, a second. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay. Let's get that one penciled out.
August 7th, what time though did we?
6 p.m.
6 o'clock.
Okay. Number 10. Report rules bylaws update. We kind of got a bunch of that in the general manager's report. Greg, is there anything else that we need to go on that?
I think it's it would be helpful to me if board members reported to me whatever issues or problems they have with the current bylaws. I have certain recommendations that I want to make, but I also want to make sure I address whatever problems you all see in that. So if any of you have any specific issues you need me to look at, please send me an email and let me know. Right?
Well, we've gotten a few handed in from the meetings. We'll certainly make sure that those are forwarded. There have been some things noted.
I'm supposed to type them up and send them to you, Greg, and then I think that we better take into consideration Bill 1633 and this rule that we're working on as well. So that may be something we need to visit about on the next meeting.
I have a question. Are rules and bylaws different?
Yes, sir, they are.
Mhm.
A rule has a very specific procedure to adopt it that requires notice, public hearing, and public votes. A bylaw, and those rules are basically what addresses what the public has to do to remain in compliance with those rules. It tells them all of the actions and avoidances they have to follow. The bylaws should be aimed at the district itself. This is how the board operates within its own confines and how the board operates with the staff. Those are not rules that do not affect anybody outside the building, essentially, and do not have to be adopted via the rulemaking process. That could be, the bylaws could be changed at any time with a proposal, a board vote, and an agenda, a proper agenda, item, open meeting, and a board vote. So the target audience is very, very different. The bylaws, it's entirely internal. The rules, it should be primarily external.
It was a rhetorical question on my part. I knew that what I was going to point out is when the agenda was published for this special meeting, it said rules. It said nothing about bylaws. And, you know, Wes, in the past, you said if it's not on the agenda, it can't be discussed. Since rules and bylaws are different, you know, there should have been no bylaw discussion in the rules meeting. But if you do it in the future, you've conflated the two here and in an email to me, but they're different.
No, you can have an agenda item for one and an agenda item for other in the
I
committee, as
agree,
far as
but
I
you
know.
didn't. The meeting and the meetings that took place here recently only said rules.
Okay,
So, but in the future, you need to do that, but.
okay,
So-
we'll have it on there.
Because, you know, you've got rule/bylaws here, but in that agenda that was published, it
Duly-
only said rules.
Duly noted, Director. It will be on there. Do we have anything else on this agenda item? Okay, we've already done 11. Item 12, discussion possible action, proposed rules change 3.02 and 4.04 previously published and considered for public hearing.
I would suggest that we table and postpone that since we've got the whole rule and bylaw thing coming up.
Well, Director, if we table it, we have to put it back on this agenda. If we're going to take it into committee, then we just need to not take action.
Well, let's take it into committee.
Then I would recommend we don't take action.
Yeah, it's fine.
Number 13, report discussion brush control committee.
Picking on me.
Yeah, I'm picking on you.
So, I've been working on kind of getting a rough price for, and I've talked to several operators of that do the application of chemicals to kill cedar and everything else. It was brought up, I think, by Randy maybe in the last brush control meeting. So I've been working on that. Our state rep, I haven't had a chance to get with him. I tried to call him, I think it was Monday, and with everything going on right now, they're pretty tied up. But I will make an effort to get a hold of him and see how everything's going on his end. And we've been pretty busy with the rules and bylaws, so we haven't had a whole lot of time for
No, we haven't.
this. But everything seems to be moving forward.
What are you handing me?
Oh,
Anything else on that one? Nope. Okay. No action. Discussion possible action, board meeting time and date change. Director Shop, you put this one up here.
Yes. I think we should talk to Greg and see when he's available. And what would be the most optimum times for him to be here.
I think with the contention on the board, it would serve us well to have council in chambers when we're having our business meeting. Greg, are you there?
I'm here. This week is my absolute worst week. I've got 4 other boards to meet during the second week of the month. I've got one board that meets in the 4th week. I've got one board that meets in the 3rd week. So either of those will work. If you want to do it on the 1st week of the month, we can. Those are for whatever reason, those seem to be harder to keep track of and get meetings posted properly for.
So second,
But
you're saying the
the 3rd week, I think would work out very well.
third or fourth, third week is actually kind of better for you?
Yes, sir. And if you,
Any day during that week that might be better for you.
yeah, I'm just going for Wednesdays.
Yeah. And travel, is there any time of the day that might be more convenient for you coming and going?
If you have it in the morning, I drive up the night before and I spend the night in Uvalde. And that gives me time to get back home and make it a single day trip. If you have it, early afternoon, I can typically get there and turn around and depending on how long the meeting goes, I could get back that same night. If you have it at 6, I'm gonna end up spending the night someplace that night before I come home. So it's almost a overnight trip no matter when you have it.
Right, but it seems like the only way you could possibly pull it off would be early afternoon, like a 1 meeting or a 2 meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably, yeah, 2 o'clock would probably be the ideal.
I move we change our meeting date to the third Wednesday at 2 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, that doesn't work for me.
Doesn't work for me. All right, also 2 p.m. When I first got on the board, we had a lengthy discussion about, having it in the evening so we'll get better attendance. Since we've had it in the evening, our attendance is, there's oftentimes no empty seat. Blake, at times you've mentioned, thanking the public for their interest. We didn't have this many people initially. Also, the idea that, having it during the evening, it gives us a chance to work all day. Changing the week hurts because it's been this week, so a lot of us have already done our schedule for the year in terms of other obligations, vacations, etc. And now that's going to throw that off. I think we leave it the same. Greg can join us this way if we need. We're obviously having many special meetings coming up. If we need Greg to actually be here other than by Zoom, he can attend those. There'll be multiple meetings, but I think we ought to keep this the same because our schedules are changed. We can work all day, and the public needs to be here in the evening with us. I know you don't like anybody talking, but I would appreciate a show of hands. Who wants to put it during the daytime? Who wants it at night? Clear majority.
The thing is, these meetings are for the board, not the public.
We
have
serve the public.
Let me finish. Don't interrupt me. As I said, these meetings are for the board to conduct their business. We have workshops, we have hearings after hours so the public can attend them. We can have our committee meetings after hours. We need our attorney here because our board is fighting with each other at every meeting, and there's a real good record of it on YouTube. I think we need to have our attorney here, and that's why I motioned for that day and that time.
All right. Can I have the floor there?
Please.
So the reason I say that doesn't work for me is because one, my hours are always an 8-hour shift that usually starts somewhere between 7 to 9. So it's either, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, usually not 10 to 6, fortunately. So to make a meeting that's at 2 o'clock during the middle of a workday, personally, for me is not a good option. The other reason it doesn't work for me is like Charlie says, we serve the public, and it's been brought up in meetings before that we're here to implement policy in the public's interest. I understand it's, our meeting, but the public has a full right to have every opportunity to be here. And you can see by the show of hands that the majority of the public works during normal business hours, and our meeting, in my opinion, should be after normal business hours so that the majority of the public can be here. Most of the board in the past has agreed to that opinion. And I'm not going to speak for the other directors here besides you, Director Robinson, and you, Director Schott, and they can speak for themselves, but that's what I think needs to happen is, and we need to keep it in the PM. 6 p.m.'s perfectly fine. I think we've been able to afford Greg's attendance here, and I think it's valid expenditure of the taxpayers' money to get him a hotel, given, all the other things that we spend getting people here. I mean, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, Mr. Burton, but, we fly you from California and we put you up in a hotel for multiple nights. We can afford once a month to put Greg Ellis in a hotel so that he can be here when the public can hear his comments too. So that's, in my opinion, what we absolutely should do. And I don't have a problem with the third week. third Wednesday at 6 o'clock is totally fine with me, but I think the time needs to stay 6 o'clock.
If you're gonna move the meeting to the, or keep the meeting in the evening, the best time for me would either be a third or fourth Tuesday or the third or fourth Thursday.
All right, so,
Okay,
so either way, the motion on the floor, I would solicit that fails and a new motion could be made to change the date to that at 6 o'clock, whatever those dates are.
Okay, can I speak now?
yes, sir.
Director Gaines, Director Palmer. You all are not looking at where we have these committee meetings. The public is welcome to come. This is a business meeting for us to conduct business. They can come to the other meetings and they can be there they can be any time of the day. Okay?
Well, shouldn't they be able to come to the business meeting also?
Yeah, they can
If we
come
get-
if it's a
If we get the thing
Yeah,
is,
it works.
if you get the
We all
deliberation,
work, Palmer. We all work. Do we not?
I'm not sure. I don't know where you work or what you do.
I'm self-employed.
okay, hang on, just stop. Look. If the committee process has worked right and it's held in the public's eye at their convenience, long before it gets to the business meeting, they're probably gonna have a pretty good idea whether they need to attend or not. Because they're gonna know whether it's gonna go the way they wanted it to or not, if they've been listening to committee.
I don't agree that that's the right thing to do. I absolutely
I'm just saying, that's
want
just my
to
point.
express my disagreement.
I understand.
I just expressed mine.
That's
Anybody,
Thank
any
you.
other further discussion on it? We got a motion and a second on the floor. Any other further
What
discussion?
was the motion?
You don't have a
again?
motion.
Yes,
That's
we
for
do.
Wednesday, right?
The motion is the third Wednesday at 2 p.m.
I just thought said he was more available on Tuesdays and
did.
Thursdays.
No. The motion on the floor is the third Wednesday at 2 p.m. with a second. Okay. What Greg said is if we change it to an evening later than 2 p.m., those other ones would work better. Okay. So, but the motion on the floor is the third Wednesday at 2 p.m. Any other further discussion on it?
Anybody want to move it to weekend?
Well, right now we got a motion and a second on the floor. We can talk about it or we can amend the motion.
I mean, to me, I've said this before in the past, to me, it's easier in the evenings than it is, but that's the way I work. It doesn't make a difference. That's up to y'all.
It makes no
Like-
difference to me. I want to be able to,
I
I
like
want Greg to be able to
I
be
like
here.
7 a.m. I like 6 p.m. Just as long as my work day's over, because I don't know where I'll be every day. But don't hold up the whole thing because of me.
How do we amend the motion? You said we could amend the motion.
It can be if I want to amend it.
If you want to, or if anybody wants to.
Oh, I'm the mover.
All right, well,
If it
I
fails,
recommend you amend it to 6 p.m. on that Wednesday.
Well, I'm not changing it. I'm just saying I can, okay? I haven't heard any argument that makes me want to change my motion at this point. I'm listening, okay? I'm listening.
Director Bland, you got anything to say about it?
it's easier for me to do in the afternoons. It just depends on what y'all want to do. It doesn't really make a difference to me. I'd rather see this go into a weekend deal where everybody could attend to it and nobody's working.
Well, weekend is that I want to get this back into daytime hours where it's more convenient for staff and consultants to get the deliberation into committee, and that way it can be held in public after hours, after 6 p.m., whatever. So the public can attend all of those meetings, and if they want to attend the regular business meeting, they can.
And we're gonna
But this-
disregard
but
the
this turn-
opinion of the public,
But
Wes.
this
That's-
this has been turned into a campaign event. That's why nothing's getting done down here.
I disagree. That's not the reason nothing's getting done.
Well, okay. Well, that's your opinion, and I've got mine. Now we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? We're keeping the same meeting date.
Abstaining.
Oh, that's okay. That would be, well, then that would be no action.
We can't make a motion.
Yeah,
change it.
yeah, you can make a motion right now on a different date and time. We just took no action on that one.
I make a motion that we make it the third week, Wednesday at 6 p.m.
And
That way it fits
Time
Greg
out.
better, actually.
Time out. Greg, what, if it's 6 PM, what's the best day for you? Tuesday or Thursday, you said, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Third or fourth week, Tuesday or Thursday.
third or fourth week, Tuesday or Thursday, it's if you're gonna go sick.
So you want to take a pick? What do you want? Tuesday or Thursday in the third or the fourth week? Take a pick.
Flip a coin between third Thursday or fourth Tuesday. Those would be best days.
Thursday, fourth.
Well,
I move, you want to make the motion?
I'll amend my motion, but I gotta know what he wants. Greg,
He's
you were
not-
saying
he's
you're
an
following up?
attorney. He can't tell you what to do. He's gonna give you options.
What do you want, Greg?
I think the third Thursday in the evening is best for me.
I amend my motion to the third week,
Third Thursday.
the third Thursday of the month at 6 PM. Did I get all that covered?
Oh, yeah.
Second.
That's great. I got a direct conflict with another meeting on that one. Yep. Yep, Thursdays are tied up for me.
Well, then let's do the fourth Tuesday.
Works for me.
Want to amend your motion? Retract it? Because I
Well-
seconded it already.
Well, you can,
I rescind my second.
second.
All right, I'll amend my motion once again to the fourth Tuesday of the month at 6 PM.
Okay.
Second.
The fourth Tuesday.
Discussion?
Only this, Greg, when we change this, do we need to meet again on the fourth Tuesday this month?
No, sir.
Okay. Just checking.
You had your regular meeting this month. This would take effect in August.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other discussion?
Yes. I'd like you to amend your motion to make it effective in January, because we've been working on this schedule and some of us already have our calendars out several months with other items that conflict with changing it at this point in time.
We need our attorney here now, not in January.
If we're gonna change it, let's have some warning.
We've had it on the agenda 3
No,
months?
no, the agenda's fine. I'm talking about the date. Now that he's proposed a specific date of the month, I want it to be effective in January so that we can, so that those of us with this year's calendar pretty much worked out.
I won't vote for that one.
You don't have to.
So there's a motion.
There's a motion and a second. He's asking him to amend it, and David will have to rescind his second before he can do that. So the question is whether David wants to rescind his second, or whether Blake wants to redo his motion.
What'd you say, fourth Tuesday?
Fourth Tuesday, you can make it work. Come on.
No, I'm looking at
Let's
it.
just vote on it.
I think that's probably the best bet. We've got a motion and a second to move our meeting date to the fourth Tuesday at 6 PM. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Passes 4-2.
Be meeting Christmas Eve.
Works for me. Discussion,
Maybe we'll
possible
have a big
action.
crowd.
Yeah, we'll have a good.
We can
crowd.
all bring Christmas presents.
Discussion, possible action, financial
You're not getting
statements for
my truck.
2025.
Well, let me read through this. Total income, $661,013.25. Total expenses, $336,052.62. A net profit loss, $324,960.63. Ad valorem taxes receivable, $900.06. Expenses payable, $2,543.19. The net negative $1,643.13. Accounts receivable, $20,585.92. General fund, $23,279.73. Money market, $345,295.87. Petty cash, $351.72. And the well log deposit, $4,000 even. Tax pool, $827,248.40. The first CD, $128,719.94. And the second CD, $256,944.48.
Any discussion?
Now, the motion on this is going to make the motion to file for audit.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It has to be, this is one of the recommendations by the auditor to make this motion. So it's going to approve as it is, but with a motion to file for audit.
Motion to file for audit. Okay.
Did
So-
you make that motion, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Right hand. All those opposed? 6-0. Approved for audit. Item number 16, review monthly investment report.
Janelle, is there a limit on the amount of money that we can have in tax pool?
No, sir.
I think we ought to move some out of money market in the tax pool. Sure.
Making more money.
What do you think, Charlie? You're the number man.
And I apologize for not noticing, but the percentage on the financial thing we just approved is on tax pool is still off.
No.
I was talking about money markets not paying.
Oh, no, I agree. And I
Oh,
agree.
you agree?
I
Okay,
agree.
okay.
No, I was looking at,
Maybe we can put that on next month's agenda.
Definitely need to
To move
take
some.
action on it. We need to have it on the agenda. If we need to
Yeah.
take action to move it, we definitely need to have it on.
I would go back,
Percentage,
go
yeah.
back one page.
The percentage.
I was talking about.
Yeah.
054 or whatever. But yeah, moving sounds good to me.
Okay. I'll have it on the next agenda.
Yeah, good item.
I'm making a note right now. My money to tax pool. Okay. Anything else on that one?
No.
Moving on, discussion possible action, invoices received and invoices paid. Any questions?
But everything,
What invoices saying?
Invoices received and paid.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
I got beat you to that one. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand, right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 18, review Texas Water Development Board Drought Index and Aquifer monitoring data. Okay, you may be up.
Okay, I'm not sure I want to camera.
Up.
You have to wake up now.
Let's start off a couple things. One, I appreciate you bringing a hydrogeologist on board. I've met Vince in the past. I think he's a great choice for you all. I put together your board packet, water levels. There is probably 67 separate graphs showing depth of water. I'm not going to go through all of those. It will take a long time. But what I have prepared some slides, there's maps in there. And the maps indicate there's a number on the map. And if you look at the depth of water graph in the right-hand corner at the bottom, it shows where that is and where that's located. We're not looking at them now. I actually don't have any. Oh, here's a map. So the red are monitoring wells. They've got numbers on them. Your depth of water graphs are included in your board package that will be posted on the website tonight or tomorrow. Shows the depth of water. You can correlate that map, those 67 maps or 50, whatever the number is. You can correlate that depth of water with one of these maps on here and you can see where it is. Go to the next slide, Marty. Same thing. Next one. Okay, let's talk about, so the red ones are monitoring wells where we have monitoring instrumentation. These are permitted wells. We've got 115 permitted wells, 48 are non-operational. You got not quite half, 40% or so, are completely non-operational, no pumps, no power, etc. These are all these P numbers. These are location numbers. Go to the next slide, please. These are intermittent wells, same thing, permitted P numbers, where they intermittently pump over 50 feet, and intermittent means they've pumped over 50 feet at least once in the last 5 years. Go to the next slide. Bunch of green dots. These are permitted wells that for over the last 5 years at least, they have pumped consistently over 50 acre feet a year. All of these P numbers will mean something. Again, red, the monitoring wells, the greens. The greens are what most people are concerned about. We have been collecting this data for a lot of years. Mr. Palmer, I appreciate you flying me out here and to be here to continue to do this work.
Right.
But go to the next slide, please. Because all of this, we've collected pumping information. All of this stuff, it is difficult as the pumping reports have been in the past to read. I appreciate Mr. Bain being here. I don't think he would mind, but going out to his property, both when he had the property down south to the property here today. All of these P numbers on the bottom of this graph, and everybody's going to get this graph. P07 to P09 out of the 115 or whatever we had. On this one, I think there's 38, 39. Don't hold me to the numbers. Where's Adam? I'm just speculating here, top of my head. But these are the only wells that pumped at all those 15. And you can see some of them are very small. You can see the January, that's how much they pumped in January, February, March, April, May. And from the maps that are located with this, you can see where that water is coming from. So where in this area water has come out of. This particular chart only goes through May because some of the June numbers we don't have yet. And so at some point in the next couple of weeks, certainly by the next meeting, we will have numbers to present for June. And this stuff, I am working to get all of this automated up onto your website, and this is still in the works. There's a lot of things to do to make that happen, but we're working on it, and it will get done. And so these will correlate to depth of water. Now, depth of water, why depth of water? As a scientist and as a hydrologist, we'll look at it. As a hydrogeologist, we'll look at it. As a geohydrologist, would look at it. You want groundwater elevation. You want piezometric surface. You want to understand the amount of head pressure that's moving water from one part of the county to the other part of the county. Why people talk about depth of water is because if you're a landowner and you want to know what's the depth of water, how far is water down under the ground? And so historically, a lot of the discussion has been with depth of water, and so see a lot of depth of water graphs. When we are doing analysis, I'm looking at piezometric surface, I'm looking at groundwater elevation. And one of the things that we have continued to say is that there is a difference in this county. It is not just one big giant piezometric surface. There is, our spring is dry. Most of the spring is dry. There's a little part, obviously, that never goes dry to the right of the bridge. As you go into the fort, there's always a little water there. But most of that's dry. There's not water going down into the creek. But continuously, and Mr. Van, I'm going to point back to you, and there is another landowner that is further down from him that has more pressure coming up out of the ground. That has consistently been like that. And
we're looking at trying to understand why, how to discretize the aquifer, what it understands. One of the things I appreciate about Mr. Claus coming in is he is the one that did your geology that took us from what we had in 2013 to that came from the Texas Water Development Board in 2010 that had basically 3 geologic layers. He took it, did work. Michelle and Vision helped out, did some 3D modeling, but came up with basically 9 separate layers within that geology. What we now need to do is to take the data from the pumping and the wells, the depth of the wells, what aquifer part that's coming from, the monitoring wells, where the data is over there, and to look at it from a piezometric surface. Can we go to the next slide? I'm going through this quick. Mr. Gomez is not here. So yeah, this is going to be hard to explain here. So
Can I ask you one
2004.
quick question?
Yes, sir.
When you're looking at this piezometric surface level, in other words, adjusted for elevation,
Yes.
does that help you ascertain whether a withdrawal in one area, where it's impacting across?
It's a tool to use to get to that answer. There's a lot of different things that affect it. Geology affects it. Is there?
No, I was just wondering if that was one of the things that
Oh,
you
yeah,
used in
absolutely.
order to try and determine impact around the area of withdrawal.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to see, but if you look at this, there are 3 solid lines. There's a blue, a purple, navy blue, and there's a little lighter blue. There's also 3 dash lines. And the axis on the left, you're going to get this in your graphs. You can look at this. You can figure out where all these places are. But the axis on the left is depth to water. And you look at the first line coming down. You know what, Mr. Palmer, I don't. It's not going to be. I see you looking. It is not in that. I apologize. It will.
Okay, let's send it somewhere else.
No, but it'll all get on the website, and we can provide print extra copies or whatever. But so the axis that's on the left, the vertical axis, that is depth to water. The top is 0, the bottom is 200. If you go to the first solid line down, it looks like a little less than 6 or a little more than 50. The next one's about 80. And you see how they change over time. And this just goes back to May, and it goes to July. And all the way down at the bottom, you see another solid line that's over 180 feet deep. And you see a solid line. So if I look at one, my depth of water looks at about 70. I look at another well, my depth of water is 80. I look at my other well, and the depth of water is 189, right? Well, if you plot the piezometric surface, or you plot the groundwater elevation versus mean sea level, feet mean sea level, look at where all those dotted lines are. They're all pretty much about the same. And what this line, where these lines are, just geographically, one is on 2804, just on this side of Pinto Valley. The other is Rose Ranch. It's just right 674, just off 674 to the left. The other one is way up on the old Vondi Ranch, Lindsay Draw, 334. It's up there. And there is essentially less than 5 foot of groundwater elevation between these 3 wells. And we have seen the water levels pretty much mimic them. And that's I think distance wise, maybe 5 miles. Okay. I could do the same thing, and I should have printed this, but I've got one well, 2804. I can go a half a mile away, and there is 100-foot difference in those dash lines. So if I'm here on 2804 on this side of the hill on Pinto Valley, and I go up over the knoll and I go back down into Pinto Valley, those wells are 100 feet or 88 feet higher, between 50 and 100 feet higher, and there's water coming out of the ground. And I've said that again and again, and Mr. Bain, again, I appreciate being here. I've got another landowner down there who's pumping today, and the pressure in his well is more than where's at Mr. Bain. There is something different happening. Now, what it is, all of this information is going to go to Mr. Claus. He's going to be looking at it. I think one of your questions about the model and discussion about the model, my 2 cents, before you try to get data into the model, I think there needs to be a real deep understanding on the conceptual hydrogeology that we have in the county, because it's real strange that we can get rain 15 miles away, and 24 hours later, this spring is shooting up out of the ground. And when this spring is going dry, 4 months later, the Dooley well is still going up. Today, the Dooley well is what, 4 feet, about 4 feet below ground surface. And so there's a lot of hydrogeologic consideration that needs to happen at all levels. And so what you're going to get in this month's package is all, well, I can't say all. It's only the automated. Okay. So this is only automated. We have lots of non-automated wells that we have to go out and collect the data. We are working to identify and to plot every exempt well in the county, looking at exempt wells also. That's part of the whole database and the package that we're getting together. But what you're going to get is all the depth of waters for the automated stuff. You have maps on where that information is, and we're looking to get all of this information online. So with that, Mr. Robinson,
I got a question, Jim.
yes, sir.
So on this graph, the one that shows P107, 108, 109, and what it's pumped, in the last few months.
Yeah.
So that, rough figures, that's 250 acre feet or whatever, right? Let's say there's one that's about 100 and one other one's 100 total. Talking
I think there's a couple that are more than 250.
Between January and May, whatever,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
take the peak of the
Yes, sir.
point right there, the three on the right. So my question, and I don't know if it's in the package here, but back when, and I don't think it is, but the correlation graphs, right, where the correlation is plotted, how likely is, X well correlated that Dr. Hutchinson used to build,
Yeah.
and the the Dooley well had the curve and whatever, that's all,
Yeah.
I don't want to go there right now, but some of them are more highly correlated, you have the diagonal line and all the
Right.
points are along that line and they show high correlation.
Right.
So I guess my question is, and I'm not talking about down there, where all the permitted wells that are off standard lane and 693, but I'm talking about P107, 08, and 09 right there. Those are all in the same kind of spot right there off of 3348, just southwest of the fort here, right?
Okay.
So do we have a monitor close to those? And it looks like we do, right? The
Yeah.
red dots.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
So the question is, could we see, and I don't know, maybe I have it already in a package from before, but I assume that there's a correlation graph that would have some idea about how those wells are correlated.
We could create with what you're talking about is a cross plot, and essentially you're looking for either a linear
Similar to the one,
correlation
right.
or a nonlinear correlation, et cetera. Their cross plots do not exist for that.
Okay.
And the reason is what we didn't have those monitors. I'm
Okay.
here for another 2 weeks installing more equipment. And so that was installed after Dr. Bill did the cross plot.
Okay.
We could try to generate cross plot. I'd have to look and see when that was installed, how much data we have,
Okay. Thank you.
and whether or not it's
If I'm
relevant.
not
I can
mistaken,
tell you that those wells down there are shallow wells in the Austin Chalk,
Right.
and it's different than Edwards water that's feeding the spring. And so
Understood. I just wondered if,
absolutely, absolutely. And we
and I'm
can
not
get
saying
that.
that's something for you to do, but that might be something that the new hydrologist could.
Yeah. And once y'all,
sounds like it'd be useful. It'd be good comparison.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's useful. And one of the things, I did get a chance a little bit. I walked outside and talked to Vince here quickly, but I've got a whole laundry list for things that need to happen because
Well, I was just curious.
but that's up to y'all.
Because that would answer some questions that people have, because people see what's, going on there, and that's fine. That's fair. It's free
Yeah.
country, but it would be good to see a similar product.
Or what about geochemistry? Just showing the difference of the water that's being pumped out of the ground and the spring.
That'd be
And then
another data
different-
point,
different geochemical stuff.
but do they interact? I don't know. Or are they correlated?
Well-
And correlation means a certain thing. I understand. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that, if you did
causation.
this, then this.
Yeah, I think
It's different. But anyway, I'm just curious.
Yeah, but you
We can talk.
bring up a good point in terms of what's connected or not. Just because you have data point that says it's not connected under these circumstances doesn't mean under a different set that it couldn't be, except when there's different geologic formations and you can identify different sources. And so that's
other question.
Okay.
No. Just related to that, you said that Vince did the geology for some of the stratification, the 9
The
layers.
LRE, he
The-
used to work for
Oh,
LRE.
he did. Okay, because
Yeah,
I
and
know
he
that
was
came
the
from
LRE
LRE. Okay, but he's now at Freese Nichols.
His name is signed and stamped as a geologist for that LRE
Because I
work
saw that.
that we are using.
Okay,
Absolutely.
but now he's not at LRE, he's at Freese Nichols. Same
Right.
guy though.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Same gentleman. And
Thank
that's
you.
where I had
Yeah.
a chance to work with him there. And we also did some work in, so I've collected data that he and Dr. Bill have used in the past for other groundwater.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Future agenda items.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, future agenda items. I'm not fighting over the agenda anymore. We're having an agenda committee and we're gonna have to meet 4 days so it can set it. Under Robert's Rules of Order, every director has the ability to request an agenda item. That agenda item has to be for the benefit of the governing body. And the governing body gets to approve the agenda prior to the meeting. Under Texas Open Meetings Act, we can't do that at a business meeting. We can't follow Robert's Rules of Order to the letter and approve the agenda right before the meeting because we have to comply with the Open Meetings Act. So there's not going to be any more argument over the agenda. We're going to form an agenda committee. We'll meet 4 business days before our stated meeting, and we'll set the agenda in public. Whole board. I'm not fighting over the agenda.
What about a laws committee meeting? I'm on a different deal.
We can do that. You really want to?
Well, we haven't had one.
What to do with
A laws committee meeting. I don't. What do we need to do?
Bylaws
Oh,
and
the bylaws
rules.
rules committee meeting.
Bylaws and rules. We need to do
Yes.
one of those.
We absolutely do, and we will discuss that via email because we didn't discuss it at the last meeting. And I would like to know if anybody is interested in being an officer on that. We need to go ahead and elect officers to that committee. So we got a vice chair, we got a secretary. That way, if the vice chair is not there available, if the chair is not available for the meeting, the vice chair can take it over.
Well, I'd just like to add on those meetings, if you haven't been able to make it, because I've learned a lot there. I know a lot of us have learned a lot by going through those, and we're just going through them sectionally. And I mean, it's open to the public, but I think we've only had maybe 3 or 4 people here. But it's really interesting to get into it, and that's where a lot of our audit stuff is coming into play, is what we're working on right
The
now.
individual chairman will run their committee and their meeting the way that they choose, although the committee can make rules about that and whatnot. My thought on the rules and bylaws committee was to run it in an open forum. I want input from the public when I'm chairing that committee. I want the public to understand the rules. I want the board to understand the rules and what we're talking about and the bylaws, and I want input from everyone.
Well, I was talking about a rules committee meeting. My
But,
apologies.
No, I'm just talking about the fact that when it comes to the other committees that I'm not chairing, they might not choose to have that open format. And that's the chair's choice. That's the way I'm choosing to run those, but that doesn't mean every chair is going to do it that way.
But if the committee's over 3 people,
Well, all of them have to be posted, and most of them are going to 7 except for brush management because that one's been coming back and reporting to the board. So we're going to 7. We're going to post them, and we're going to have them in public so the public can attend, and they can see us deliberate, and they can see where we're coming down on this, all clear and transparent. Because that's the only way I know that we can quit fighting over this agenda. If anybody has any other suggestions, I'm more than open to hearing.
I question your word about fighting over the agenda. I don't think it's a fight. I think there's just been times when things that were discussed on video and tape about being on the future agenda that didn't show up. Magically, they,
I understand your concern.
and that's only happened 2, 3, 4 times.
Well, I'm not going to be the punching bag when your item doesn't get on the agenda. I'm not putting up with it, and no one else is because no one is someone else's subordinate on this. The board is responsible for it. The board has the authority to approve the agenda before the meeting. This follows the rule to the letter. And no one is trying to block anyone taking their item off, and I'm not going to be accused of that anymore. It's going to committee.
So who omitted the item in question for tonight?
I'm not going to get into specifics of it, Director, because it really doesn't matter. I am preventing a problem that keeps getting dropped in my lap as a presiding officer, and I keep getting a punching bag over it. And I'm not going to be the punching bag over the agenda. You're either going to trust me when I do it, or you're not. And if you're not going to trust me to put it together, you're going to do it through committee. Because everybody wants to point the finger at who didn't put their agenda item on there, why didn't, and raise hell. And I'm not going to listen to that. It's not going to happen. I'm not putting up with it. I'm nobody's subordinate. I'm a public servant. I'm everyone's subordinate. Literally.
But if somebody makes a mistake, Wes, then the thing to do is just to admit your mistake and move on. And I'm not saying you made a mistake. If you did, just say you did. But if
No, I sat down and created that agenda with the attorney on the phone. So I'm not, no.
I'm just saying,
If anybody wants to complain about it again, we're going to go do it through agenda. We're going to do it through the committee because I'm not going to be the punching bag. There's no one here that is ultimately responsible for that agenda except this board, all 7 members. You're going to follow the rules perfectly. Okay. You have the ability to request. It has to be for the benefit of the governing body, and the governing body has the ability to approve the agenda prior to the meeting. This is the only way that we can accomplish the rules, okay, and not have agenda wars. And I'm done with agenda wars.
I'll let it go. My impression up to now, just short answer is, and your signature is on the agendas, or Janelle's signature is on the agendas. So I would assume that signature would make you accountable if you sign it, or Janelle accountable if she signs it.
Oh, you were
incorrect. Then step up and be accountable for it. And it's not that big a deal, but I mean, it is what it is.
Would you like to be chairman of the?
No, I don't think it needs a committee. I'm not in favor of having a 7-person board committee to do the agenda. I don't think that's necessary. If that's the decision of the board, then that's
okay.
The deal.
Our previous method of doing this is
this last minute stuff and demands.
Last minute. It was discussed in open forum at our June meeting.
You pitched your fit when this community was going through a travesty. We just had absolutely tragic accident happen, and you want to demand that somebody's got to go and fix this Friday and do this. You don't have the ability to demand anything. You don't have the authority to.
Wait, I did what?
Yes, you did. You demanded that it go be fixed.
I did what?
I just said, I'm not saying it.
Look, no, come on.
Look,
it was discussed in open forum in June, and it didn't fix. The method has worked fine in the past until very recently. And the items that were omitted
Director,
were magically pertain to you.
Committee chairman. I'm giving you control of the agenda. What do you want?
Well, and along those lines, I just looked at my schedule. I respectfully decline. I appreciate your confidence in me, making me, offering the chairmanship.
There you go.
But I just looked at, we have 5 meetings left in this calendar year. I have conflicts with 4 of them. But when you're changing it, so therefore it would be inappropriate for me, 2, I cannot change, 2, I'll try to change. It would be inappropriate for me to, do the agenda thing if I can't change my calendar and miss 4 of the next 5 meetings. I realize that might make you happy that I'm not here, but
No,
it would be inappropriate.
I need 4 votes to move the body forward, so I need everybody here that can be here.
Anyway, but thank you for your vote of confidence, but I decline.
Well, that's fine. Then we're not going to be doing it by committee.
Why not the way it's been done before? It worked well I've been on here 2.5 years. It's worked well.
Yeah, it works well as long as Charlie gets the agenda item Charlie wants on there the way Charlie wants it on there. And when he doesn't, he wants to pitch.
Charlie has complained about one agenda item one time in 2.5 years. And magically it pertained to you. And it was omitted.
Director, we've got committees. That's where that's supposed to be. If you want to put it back on the agenda, that's fine. We'll have it on next meeting.
Well, it's also, you sent me an email saying that this was not the appropriate time to talk about it. It should have been
It's
talked
really
about.
not.
You're listening, not talking. It should have been talked about in the rules/bylaws meeting. Again, as was pointed out earlier, any discussion of bylaws in that meeting would be inappropriate because it wasn't posted. Therefore, the proper time to do it would have been tonight as requested a month ago. It's
Director,
worked well in the past. I see no
do you
reason to
want-
change it.
do you want it?
If the
Do you want
agenda
it on the
items
next
show,
agenda or not, Director?
do I want to what?
Do you want it on the next agenda or not, Director?
We're doing bylaws between now and then. Is that correct?
Well, we're gonna have a meeting for it.
Yeah. Well, part of what we have to change the bylaws. So now that we're going to have an agenda that says rules/bylaws, wouldn't that be the best time to bring it up at that meeting?
I would think that would be the play.
I'm in.
I don't think you can vote, Charlie, at those rules.
Huh?
I don't think if you want to vote to change the bylaws the vote needs to be on the regular meeting's agenda. The discussion, possible action.
Actually,
To
the way it
adjust the
kind of
bylaw.
works.
We
Actually,
can
the way
do
it
that
kinda-
in that special meeting. We
Yeah.
can put,
Well-
vote possible action on bylaws.
Let me just clear something up real quick, okay? In committee, you can vote on things, okay? That's the way you get it out of committee, all right? Because in committee, the whole board may be there, the whole board might not be there. It's not a quorum vote. It's a simple majority of vote of those that are there, okay? When it gets voted on in committee, that's what's going to get presented to the board to vote up or down, okay?
Right, but
Because a lot of people can't meet in committee.
No, I understand that, but does it not need to be on the regular board meeting agenda to have the public vote to change a bylaw?
Yes, once it comes out, once the proposed bylaw changes come out of the committee, then it comes up on the agenda and the whole thing's voted on.
So your question to
What?
Charlie, does he want it on the agenda? I would think you would want it on the regular.
No, my
board meeting
question
agenda.
is.
We don't have
no,
we don't have the change yet.
My question, you've made this rules/bylaws committee the whole board, is that correct?
Yes,
All right, so therefore it is a legal
It is
meeting,
posted.
that we posted meeting.
Yes, sir.
So we can vote on bylaws
Yes.
in that meeting.
well.
It's not a committee. We can vote in that meeting since there's a quorum and it's a specially called posted meeting.
Well, no, if it's a committee, it's not a board action. That's why you don't have to vote. That's why you don't have to have 4 votes because it's not a board action. Board actions occur in the business meeting. Okay, in committee, you're only coming up with all your different changes and all your edits and your final product that you're going to bring up before the board for the vote at the business meeting. So you vote on individual items in committee. I mean, we may vote on a paragraph. We like this part of the bylaw. 4 of us like it. 2 of us don't. We vote on it. The 4 that liked it got it in there. We go to the next one and we work our way through the whole thing. We get all the changes done. That's what comes up for the board to consider as a whole to vote on.
Well, but if the board's there, if you have a quorum
It doesn't.
at the meeting, doesn't that make it a board meeting?
No, it does not. It's a committee meeting.
Okay.
That's why the rules of voting are different. When you're in your board meeting in chapter 36, you have to have 4 votes, no matter how many. You got to have 4 for quorum and you got to have 4 for passage. In committee, you do not. It's a simple majority. Okay, you got 4 people show up at the committee meeting. 3 versus 1. You don't have to have 4 votes. And that little edit is going to go into the one that comes back up before the board. That has to have a full quorum vote.
If it's not on the agenda, then it's not gonna.
Well, that's when you put it
on the agenda.
Well, yeah, but
Okay,
what I'm trying to tell you is
I understand.
putting it on the agenda before you come out of committee is really kind of pointless until you finish the document. That's all
That
I'm
works.
saying.
Yeah, noted.
All right. Anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, want to stay? Oh, sorry about that.